So Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you very much for joining us. I'd like to seek your good wishes and your blessings so that we can say something to please our grand spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master, His Holiness Krishna Swami Maharaj, and to the Parampara, Radha and Krishna, Krishna Balaram Gaunitai. So it's always an incredible pleasure that we can speak about Prabhupada. We owe everything to him. Our whole life belongs to him. If it wasn't for him, we certainly wouldn't be sitting here having these transcendental satsangs every day. It's just incredible. And probably the most important thing in the history of this world took place today, according to the lunar calendar. Srila Prabhupada landed or arrived in the USA. And it's the single most important act that has been done in this sampradaya or any sampradaya by any spiritual master. Our spiritual master, His Holiness Krishna Swami Maharaj, used to say, the greatest spiritual revolutionary ever existed, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. And that's a fact. He is the greatest spiritual master, full stop. There's nobody greater than Srila Prabhupada. And we can little bit try to understand why. We'll never fully understand his greatness. And I don't want to fully understand his greatness because I just want to love him. He met his spiritual master in 1922. This is his initiation in 1932 or 33, I think. But the first meeting where he met his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that great sadhu, great sage, said to Srila Prabhupada that this Hare Krishna movement should be preached all over the world, in the Western countries. And at that time, Srila Prabhupada challenged him. How is that possible when India is under British rule? Shouldn't we first become free from this tyranny, and then we can spread the mission? And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, no, this Sankirtan movement is very important. It transcends any local or national issues. It goes way, way beyond. And Srila Prabhupada left the meeting thinking, this Sankirtan movement is in great hands. And immediately he actually accepted Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati within his heart as his spiritual master. And then he took initiation, as we mentioned, from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And then he wrote to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur because he was a grihastha. He wasn't a sannyasi, or he was not a brahmachari living in the temple. He had a family, he had a business, so he couldn't serve directly his spiritual master. He had family commitments, etc. So he wrote to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati saying, how can I serve you? I'm not able to directly serve you. How can I serve you? So then what happened? Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati left the planet in 1936, December 31st. But he wrote a letter before he left to Prabhupada. And the letter reiterated the same order he had been given in 1922 when he first met his spiritual master. You try to preach whatever you have learned from me to the English-speaking people of the world. That will be good for you and for the people to whom you preach. This is my instruction to you. And Srila Prabhupada took that instruction as his final order from his spiritual master. And he never left that instruction. So that was in 1936. It wasn't until 1965 right? Nearly 30 years later that he actually came out of India. So in those 30 years, he prepared, he was patient, he worked hard. He worked hard for his business, but that didn't work out. He worked hard with his family, that didn't work out. He retired to Vrindavan, he wrote books, he started Back to Godhead magazines, he started other preaching movements in Jhansi without any success. And then he had dreams. This we talked about, I think, last week or the week before, that Bhaktisiddhanta was calling him to take sannyas. And he was a little shocked when he was having those dreams. But he eventually took sannyas after he retired in Vrindavan in 1959. This is his sannyas picture. And then after taking sannyas, he made the final plans to fulfill the order of his spiritual master. All this time he was in preparation. He wrote the books in English. He used to give classes in English. Nobody understood him because nobody spoke English. But he was training himself. So before departing to the US, Prabhupada visited Shantipur. Anybody remember this wonderful place called Shantipur? Who lives there? Who lived there from Golila? It's a very big hint on the screen. Anybody remember? Who lived in Shantipur? It's near Mayapur.
Nityanand Prabhu.
No, Nityananda was actually, he was Ekachakra, he was born there. It was actually Advaita Acharya. So now,
Advaita Acharya, yeah. Oh,
yes,
yeah, okay.
that's right. So over the years, in the 40s and 50s, Prabhupada used to visit Shantipur, and he used to stand at the back of the temple and chant his japa and weep for the mercy of Advaita, Nityananda, and Mahaprabhu. So one pujari noticed him, and then again he came in 1965. And this time the pujari went to him and said to him, "Who are you? I remember you used to come here before, but you haven't come for a long time." So Prabhupada answered, "My name is Abhay Charandavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami. I'm a disciple of the empowered soul, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. And my spiritual master has given me an impossible mission to take the holy names across the ocean. And tomorrow I am going on my mission, but I've come here to seek the blessings of Advaita Acharya and Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya." So this is his prayer. That's why he used to go to Shantipur. Now, what happened? Many years later, in the 70s, this pujari in Shantipur, he started noticing Westerners coming in dhoti and kurta. And he was a little shocked because this was an unheard of thing. One of them gave him a Back to Godhead magazine. And he left. Later on, the pujari was looking through the magazine. He saw a picture of Prabhupada. He recognized this is the man, the sadhu, who used to come here and pray, weep for the mercy of Advaita Acharya. So this pujari was thinking, this sadhu's done it. He's successful in his mission. And then he went to Mayapur and he told the devotees about this pastime. So it's such a phenomenal event. So how did Prabhupada get to the West? He met a man, a gentleman in Mathura, Mr. Agarwal. He was a businessman in Mathura. He had a son called Gopal, who lived in America, Pennsylvania. And Prabhupada asked him, please get your son to sponsor me so that I can go to America. So Mr. Agarwal agreed. Gopal did the sponsorship. In fact, Gopal had sponsored many sadhus in the past. But none of them had turned up. None of them had come. Right? So Gopal, he was thinking, okay, I'll do this letter. He's not going to come either. So he did the sponsorship letter. So Prabhupada, with that letter, etc., he got the permission, the papers from the Ministry of External Affairs. He got his passport done, etc. And then, of course, he had to get across the ocean. How was he going to get across the ocean? Right? Now, he knew Sumati Moraji, who was the head of the Scindia steamship line. And he'd met her before. She'd given him a nice donation to print volume 2 of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And she knew he was a very holy person. She'd met him earlier in the 1950s. And she was very, very respectful to him. So he requested her, give me a ticket on your ship, on your cargo ship. But Sumati Moraji said, no, you're an old man. If you go there, you will just die there. Stay in Vrindavan. But Prabhupada was determined. He met her secretary, Mr. Choksi, and he would tell Mr. Choksi, you go and tell your boss, give me a ticket. And then he would even coach him what to say. I found this gentleman very inspiring to go to the US and to preach Krishna's mission to the people there. Give him a ticket. But she kept saying no. Eventually, Prabhupada was very persistent. He demanded a personal interview with Srimati Moraji. And finally, she agreed to meet him. She would keep ignoring him. But he was tenacious, and she agreed to the meeting. Eventually, he went in, saw her, and he simply said, give me a ticket. I have to fulfill the order of my spiritual master. She was still a little reluctant, but she saw his commitment, and she saw in his eyes this great determination to please his spiritual master, fulfill the desire of Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So she agreed to give him passage to the US on her ship, Jaladuta, and that would sail from Calcutta on 13th August 1965. Prabhupada later on said, everybody was aiming to go to London, but I had decided to go to the US, New York. So what an incredible move. She made wonderful arrangements in the ship, in the boat, in the cargo ship. There was a captain who was Vaishnav, actually. His name was Arun Pandya. And they took extra vegetables and fruits for Prabhupada so that they would be comfortable. He gave his own cabin to Prabhupada. So he was treated with great respect. And a couple of days before the 13th of August, Prabhupada went to Mayapur, and he went to Shantipur, and that's where he met the devotee, and he said to the devotee, tomorrow I am going to America. Prabhupada had with him a couple of, I think he had 1 or 2 suitcases. He had some clothes, he had some cereal, umbrella. And yeah, that's right. The rest, the books were picked up later on.
From Cochin.
Cochin, that's right, that's right. So in Calcutta, it was just him with a suitcase. 70-year-old, he was 69. He celebrated his 70th birthday on the ship. Now, isn't that in itself the most extraordinary thing. At the age of 70, most people at that age would never consider of such an adventure. And what did he leave behind? Well, he was living in Radha Damodar Temple in Vrindavan Dham. And that is regarded to be the epicenter, that's the word, I was looking for that word, of the spiritual world. That is like the wall we were looking at before when we were talking about Golok Vrindavan. That is it. That is the wall. That's the absolute center of the lotus of Golok Vrindavan. Right? So he left that. Extraordinary. So after 10 days of travel on the ship, it approached the Red Sea, and Prabhupada wrote in his diary that there was difficulty, rain, sickness, dizziness, headache, no appetite, vomiting. The symptoms persisted, but it was more than seasickness. He had pains in his chest, and he was feeling he could die any moment. And over 2 days, he suffered 2 heart attacks. But he tolerated the difficulty, and he meditated on the purpose of his visit, of his mission. And one night afterwards, on the boat, he had another dream that Krishna and his incarnations were rowing a boat, and Krishna told Prabhupada that he should not fear, he should just come along. Prabhupada felt assured of Krishna's protection, and the violent attacks did not reoccur. By September the 10th, so this is, we're celebrating today, he actually reached, I think, 17th of September, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. But because we're following the lunar calendar, according to the lunar calendar, he reached Saptami, which is today. So by 10th of September, Prabhupada was becoming accustomed to life at sea. He wrote in his diary, "The ship is plying very smoothly. I feel today better. But I am feeling separation from Sri Vrindavan and my lordships, Sri Govinda Gopinath, Radha Damodar. My only solace is Chaitanya Chaitamrit, in which I am tasting the nectarian Chaitanya Leela's Leela. I have left Bharat Bhumi just to execute the order of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada in pursuance of Lord Chaitanya's order. I have no qualifications, but have taken up the risk just to carry out the order of the divine grace, of his divine grace. I depend fully on their mercy, so far away from Vrindavan." Now, the captain of this ship, he remarked to Prabhupada, the ocean was the calmest he has ever seen. Because the Atlantic can be very, very rough. And this captain was very experienced. That's why actually Srimati Muraji put him in on this ship, because she knew, one, the captain was a Vaishnav, vegetarian, and 2, he was experienced. She didn't want any difficulty for Prabhupada. She's such a glorious person. And Prabhupada wrote in his diary, if the Atlantic would have shown its usual face, perhaps I'd have died. But Lord Krishna had taken charge of the ship. So after a 35-day journey from Calcutta, the Jaladuta reached Boston's Commonwealth Pier at 5:30 a.m. on 17th of September 1965. The ship stopped briefly in Boston, and then it proceeded to New York City. On 18th September, on the ship, he wrote a poem, Makine Bhagavata Dharma. You read it. So we'll read the poem. This is an extraordinary poem, really amazing poem.
My dear Lord Krishna, you are so kind upon this useless soul, but I do not know why you have brought me here. Now you can do whatever you like with me. But I guess you have some business here. Otherwise, why would you bring me to this terrible place? Most of the population here is covered by the material modes of ignorance and passion. Absorbed in material life, they think themselves very happy and satisfied, and therefore they have no taste for the transcendental message of Vasudev. I do not know how they will be able to understand it, but I know your closeless mercy can make everything possible because you are the most expert mystic. How will they understand the melodies of devotion service? Oh Lord, I'm simply praying for your mercy, so I'll be able to convince them about your message. All living entities have become under the control of the illusory energy by your will. And therefore, if you like, by your will, they can also be released from the clutches of illusion. I wish that you may deliver them. Therefore, if you so desire their deliverance, then only will they be able to understand your message. The words of Srimad Bhagavatam are your incarnation. And if a sober person repeatedly receives it with submissive oral reception, then he will be able to understand your message. It is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, verses 17 to 21. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. Loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praise of transcendental songs, is established and is an irrevocable fact. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's mode of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness, and he...
hang on. Let's see what he's supposed to be. And
It'll be on the next page.
Oh, it's the next page. Yeah. It'll be on the next page.
Yeah, there.
Yeah, you're right. Good. Yeah.
And he becomes completely happy. Thus established in the mode of unalloyed goodness, the man whose mind has been enlivened by contact with devotion service to the Lord gains positive scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation from all material association. Thus the knot in the heart is pierced and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions is terminated when one sees the self as master. He will become liberated from the influence of the modes of ignorance and passion, and thus all inauspicious things accumulated in the core of the heart will disappear. How will I make them understand this message of Krishna consciousness? I'm very unfortunate, unqualified, and the most fallen. Therefore, I'm seeking your benediction so that I can convince them, for I am powerless to do so on my own. Somehow or other, O Lord, you have brought me here to speak about you. Now, my Lord, it is up to you to make me a successor or failure as you like. O spiritual master of the worlds, I can simply repeat your message. So if you like, you can make my power of speaking suitable for their understanding. Only by your causeless mercy will my words become pure. I'm sure that when this transcendental message penetrates their hearts, they will certainly feel engladdened and thus become liberated from all unhappy conditions of life. Oh Lord, I'm just like a puppet in your hands. So if you have brought me here to dance, then make me dance, make me dance. Oh Lord, make me dance as you like. I have no devotion, nor do I have any knowledge, but I have strong faith in the holy name of Krishna. I have been designated as Bhakti Vedanta. And now, if you like, you can fulfill the real purport of Bhakti Vedanta. Signed, the most unfortunate, insignificant beggar, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, on the board of the ship Jaldut at Commonwealth Pier, Boston, Massachusetts, USA, dated 18th of September, 1965.
Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. In New York, he exited at the Brooklyn Pier. And he used to say that, actually this poem, before we go there, was found 7 years later by a devotee. So it wasn't something that Prabhupada publicized, that, hey, I struggled for you guys, and this was my mood before I came here. He never showed this prayer to anybody, but it was found by a devotee. Anyway, in New York, he exited at the Brooklyn prayer. His only contact, of course, was that Gopal Agarwal, the son of the businessman in Mathura. But Gopal couldn't come to New York. He lived in Pennsylvania. So he sent a representative, a traveler's aid representative, to meet Prabhupada. And Prabhupada did say that when I got off the boat, the ship, I didn't know whether to turn left or to turn right. He knew no one. He had how many rupees?
40.
40 rupees, which was the equivalent of $11. But the funny thing was, maybe not so funny, but the thing was, you couldn't actually exchange those rupees into dollars. So he came with absolutely nothing except his very deep, strong faith and devotion to his spiritual master. So this representative met him and he put him on a bus to Pittsburgh, and Gopal met him at the other side. And Gopal was very surprised to meet him. And he took him to Butler, which is where they lived with his wife, Sally Agarwal. And there is Gopal. He came to the Juhu temple some years ago. He's Gopal there. And at that time, Gopal and Sally had a little boy, little baby son. I think he was probably about 4 or 5 months old. And that's him. His name was Bridge. He's a little bit bigger now. So it's very interesting. And Prabhupada he really enchanted the family. Sally, I think in an interview said, their health wasn't so good, but he used to cook for them and their health improved. They used to keep meat in the fridge. And he used to say, not to bother, not to bother. He wouldn't put anybody out.
I think Prabhupada kept those 40 rupees all this time, didn't he?
Yeah.
He used them when the first time he went
to
back to Bharat.
So in many people's opinion, I am one of them, this is the most significant act today. How Prabhupada in 1965 landed in the US. Did it for us. If he hadn't done that, I dread to even think where we would be. So I wanted to stop there, and Madhusudan Prabhu, you would like to share your realizations?
Haribol, Hare Krishna, Nabi.
Hare Krishna. Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Oh, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sitting outside in the sun. What a day.
Okay, we don't have.
It's nice. Anyway, whenever I hear this particular pastime of Prabhupada, yeah, it's especially that poem, and for Prabhupada to take that step with no sannyasi or any spiritual leaders, or there are so many other spiritual leaders who come and go and all that. They come and do kathas and this and that. Even Vivekananda left, and he was supposed to have made some sort of a mark in America, but his speech was just on impersonalism and all that. And then not many people got to know very much about Krishna or the Vedas or anything. But what Prabhupada has done is changed. Well, what can you say? It's a spiritual revolution, but nobody would know. nobody would have thought, you know, and I'm so grateful anyway. But that poem is so touching and so inspiring. It's, you know, it's something like, also there is another song. There were two songs that Prabhupada wrote, you know, and if you Google Krishna Tava Avdani, wait a minute. It's song name is Krishna Tava Punya Have Bhai. Have you heard that? You
Yes.
must know about it.
Correct.
And that's also a song which Prabhupada wrote on the Jaladuta. And if you want to, you can Google it and screen share, but others can also. In 1965, this was on the Jaladuta. And obviously I can't sing it, but you know, the way it goes. I know this song was also found a lot later, and wonderful devotees is Prabhupada's disciple like Agni Dev. He came to Birmingham. Actually, I met Agni Dev for the first time. I used to listen to his kirtans in my cars every day, wherever I used to go. And I never knew who sang those bhajans, you know. And he was incredible. And my children have grown up with listening to his Agni Dev's kirtans, you know, in my car. And wherever long journeys and all that, and, you know, Agni Dev's bhajans would be on. But then when I met him and I realized, I said, you know, and amazingly, I met him at your son's place in Birmingham. He had come there, you know, and Agni Dev sang this song, Krishna Tava Punya Habe Bhai, Ei Punya Koribe Jabe Radharani Sukhi Hoye, Dhruva Ati Boli Toma Tai. So this is he explained this whole, and I had it recorded, and I've got a video clip of Agni Dev singing and explaining this whole bhajan, and how Prabhupada actually says, you know, that, you know, Shri Siddhanta Saraswati Suchi Sutta Priyati, Krishna Seba Jara Tula Nai, Sei Sei Mohanta Guru Jagater Madhyatur, Krishna Bhakti Deva Dai Thai. So actually there are 9 stanzas in this. And when Prabhupada is saying, he's saying, say, oh brother, where he's saying, you know, Krishna Taba Punya Hobe Bhai. So it's like saying, you know, Krishna, oh brother, the Supreme Lord Krishna will bestow virtue upon you. But he will do this only when Srimati Radharani first becomes pleased with you. This I surely declare to you. Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is very dear to Lord Gauranga, the son of Mother Sachi, is unparalleled in his service to the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. He is that great saintly spiritual master, most magnanimous within this universe, who bestows devotion to Krishna in various places throughout the world. His desire is very powerful, and thus he is causing the holy name of Lord Gauranga to spread throughout all the countries of the Western world. In all the cities, towns, and villages on the earth, extending to all the oceans, rivers, and streams, everyone may chant the names of Krishna and Rama. Thus, all directions will be conquered by the flood of transcendental ecstasy flowing with the excessive mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When all the miserable living entities that have been corrupted by Maya become happy, then the Vaishnav's desire is fulfilled. Although my Guru Maharaj ordered me to accomplish this mission, I am unworthy to do it, being very fallen and incompetent. That being the case, O Lord Krishna, your mercy is today arising in the befitting manner to make me become worthy. for you are the wisest of all. If you bestow your divine power, then one attains the factual substance, which is service to the spiritual master, and life becomes successful. If that service is obtained, then one becomes truly satisfied and ultimately receives your association due to good fortune. As stated by Prahlad Maharaj to Lord Nrsimha in the Srimad Bhagavatam 7:9-28, thus by associating with material desires, one after another, I am following the general populace of falling into the blind well full of snakes. My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, then the great sage Narad Muni kindly accepted me as his disciple and instructed me how to achieve the transcendental position similar to his own. How could I ever leave the service of your servant? O Lord Krishna, you are my eternal companion. Forgetting you, I have suffered the kicking of Maya birth after birth. If today the chance to meet you occurs again, then surely I will be able to rejoin you. Oh, my dear brother, in your company, I will experience great joy once again, wandering about the pastures and fields. I will pass the entire day with you in tending the cows, joking with you, and frolicking throughout so many forests of Raj. I will enjoy pastimes of stealing and eating one another's lunch. Oh, when will that day be mine? Today, that remembrance of being with you came to me in a very nice way. Feeling great longing, I called out to you, O Lord Krishna, only because I am your eternal servant do I desire your association so much. Except for you, I have no other refuge. So this is one of the two songs Srila Prabhupada wrote while he was on the Jaladuta in 1965. So this was the translation that I read through, and Prabhupada actually wrote this as a song, as a poem. And in that, you can see that he is actually saying, Krishna, you will be merciful to me if Radharani is pleased. When Radharani is pleased because I'm trying to please my spiritual master, he has given me an order, and he has a very strong desire to give Krishna consciousness to all the living entities. He is so merciful. So only if Radharani is pleased, then you'll be pleased and you'll be merciful to me. So indirectly, Krishna, Prabhupada actually very subtly, gets Krishna involved in this mission of Prabhupada, and just because he's trying to please spiritual master. So this was very nicely explained, and I heard it for the first time. And Agni, you can YouTube these. There's so many different people may have tried to sing this. But when Prabhupada is saying that, when will I experience that joy of being in the pastures, in the fields, and I will pass the entire day with you. That's like Prabhupada saying, we as Gopals, with Krishna, frolicking around on the fields and tending the cows. And so very subtly, Prabhupada is revealing who he really is, as well, and what he is missing out. And he's calling out to Krishna that when will I have that day again and the association again. So sorry I've taken time, but to read this, and you can always go back to it and refer to it. But these are the songs, and the other poem that you read out are the things that touch my heart every time. And today is such a special day that Prabhupada took that step so humbly and without, it's like, if later on somebody used to make a comment, Prabhupada said, he said, if the CIA and Omega knew what I was doing, they would have certainly got me, and but Prabhupada did it in a very nice way. He's saving us fallen souls. And thank you for letting me share this little bit about Prabhupada.
No, thank you. Thank you very much for reciting that poem. Very, very touching. Anybody like to ask any questions or make any comments, any realizations, please?
I don't know how he did it, Prabhuji. I don't know how he did it because, you know, I look at myself. I don't want to, you know, like if somebody said to me, like, go on, you got to promote this product in America, you know, for a business, you know, I just wouldn't know where to start. I wouldn't know where to go. You know what I mean? It's just like, I'm just thinking to myself, wow. It's
yeah.
just,
yeah.
And my age, you know, I'm 47 and I can't believe it, you know, because 70 years old, you know, that is so incredible. That is just, you know, he's like a youth. That's the most incredible thing, because only a youth can do that, as far as I'm concerned. Hare Krishna.
Absolutely. And if you think about the product, right? Krishna consciousness, but if you think about what the product was, chanting, fair enough. But then the product also includes no meat, no fish, no eggs, no intoxications, no gambling, no illicit sex. Where was he going, right? He was going to the center of the whole world, because New York was pretty much the capital of the world, where these things were prevalent, you know, meat eating, illicit relationships, gambling, drugs, intoxication, drinking. So he, one little man, if you like, right, going into the capital of the world where sense enjoyment was the real in thing, and he was selling this product of Krishna, as you said. And
right in the heart of all the cow killing, you know, the whole, the whole America is
everything
just
against him,
based
right,
on
That's
cattle rustling and
only
cowboys.
Based on that. That's right, nothing else. And he was facing the whole capitalism, materialism on his own, one man, right? Didn't have any support, didn't have any friends in America, didn't have any money, didn't have a place to stay, didn't have anything. But what he did have was the spiritual master's order, and within the order is contained the blessing. So whenever the spiritual master gives an order, it may sound preposterous, impossible to fulfill. And that is the case if one is thinking like that. But if one has the faith that within this order is also the blessing that comes with the order to fulfill it, then anything is possible. And Prabhupada has shown this. Anything is possible. He had this incredible faith in the words of his spiritual master, in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Krishna. And because of that incredible faith, he on his own single-handedly was able to establish a worldwide movement, but no ordinary movement. This movement spread the holy names to every town and village. It is the reason why this Kali Yuga is this next 10,000 years is regarded to be Satya Yuga, even it's within Kali Yuga. His books, which he translated, are the law books for the next 10,000 years. So this is no ordinary person, this is no ordinary journey, and this is no ordinary day. It's the most extraordinary event in the history of this world, in the history of this universe, in the history of Brahma's life, as far as I'm concerned, because this is incredible what he did.
Another very small point. I work in the holiday industry, as you know, and basically we get a lot of people who are in the 65s and 70, And so what the story is, if you're 70 years old, you're trying to spend as much of your savings as you can to go on holiday for your own sense gratification. Or if you're 70 years old and you are not well, you are sick, you're worried about death. You know, what an incredible variation of people, you know, are alive. And, you know, Srila Prabhupada is not thinking about going on holiday, is not thinking about, you know, death, because all he thinks about is the Shri Radha Krishna. And to start a movement, you know, it's just incredible. I mean, I was just thinking about that, you know, wow, we don't have any bookings now because of Corona, and all those bookings were from old age pensioners, you know, and here is a 70-year-old youth, sorry, I'm going to say youth, you know, spiritual youth, you know, as Guru Maharaj would say, Kanaya ka Sapai, you know, Krishna's, you know, policeman, going to New York, you know, and the rest is history. You know, it's incredible. Hare Krishna.
He was seated one time next to some gentleman who years later, when he found out that this movement was so huge, he came and told the devotees, I used to sit on the bench with him, and he had absolutely nothing at that time. But he told this man, I have disciples, I have many, many temples, I have many, many books. Just time is separating us. So he had this great faith. And, you know, from his life, we have to, if we can give him lip service and say, Jai Srila Prabhupada, but we've got to do more than that. He's given us so much. We've got to give our life to him. We've got to put every effort we have to assist his mission, you know, and that means distributing his books, chanting very nicely, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. We've got to do our very best, because we've got the greatest grandfather that you could possibly ever have. And in order to fulfill the purport of that grandfather, we got to do our level best, our very best.
Well, Nabi, that is one reason why, you know, for so many years, while I was in my teaching job in my early 30s, 40s, 50s, you know, and 60s now, so I've spent my time trying to establish a center in Coventry. Was a tough thing. Many devotees used to come and try and preach, but because Guru Maharaj also started coming to Coventry, and then we started to support him, and he started to guide us as well. You know, before that, you know, I was initiated by Bhagwan as well. After that, then, you know, there's so many histories, ups and downs of, not to look back into the history, but my desire was just to have as many people find out more about Prabhupada. That is all my desire. And in Coventry, we started the center. We used to come to South London, support, you know, and help. And then you used to come to Coventry, and we spent so many years, you know, in an association like that. And so many devotees have come, and I'm actually on this platform, sitting and listening to Pitambar, who came to the Coventry Temple in those days as a young boy. You know, and that is what is amazing about today that you're talking about. And I'll be 70 this year, so I've spent so many years, wherever I go, I try and talk about Prabhupada, tell about Prabhupada. And when we started the center in Coventry, you look at the board and it says, you know, dedicated to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Although it's called Sri Sri Radha Krishna Culture Center, we worked out different ways, you know. And the center is there now, you know, but they're far more important than the center. And like you say, sometimes in relationship, sometimes, you know, people work in different ways and all that. And Guru Maharaj also later on stopped coming to the center here in Coventry. In fact, he would even tell me not to associate in a different way. So I kept to myself, and wherever I get a chance, more important than having a center or anything is to have a community of devotees based on good relationships. And even this platform, Zoom, look at that. We don't have a temple. We don't have a building. All we've got is an iPhone here and a Zoom and talking to so many people all over the world. And we're talking about Prabhupada. What an amazing thing, you know. And that's what I always wanted to dedicate my life, and to sit here and listen to Pitamba, who has been my student. To me, this is an amazing, and you're appreciating Prabhupada as well. And I'll be 70 this year. I can't do what Prabhupada has done, but it's my own,
the thing is,
my,
we only limit
as I say,
ourselves. Yeah, but we can only limit ourselves. If we, we can, if we put our mind to it, we can do anything, It's just...
Oh yeah, you don't know.
Guru Maharaj has told us
a couple of years ago, I could,
so many things to...
A couple of years ago, I might have gone through different situation, but like Pitamba said, he had a bit of a hard situation. So, Guru Maharaj had when he was young, he had heart situation, and he had a bypass and all that. He was a heart patient throughout his life, more or less. And he dedicated his time to... But one thing I like, what you pointed out, Nabi, is when Maharaj used to say, the greatest spiritual revolutionary
the world has ever seen.
Yeah, and then he used to call him the 13th Mahajan as well. Great. So, I would pay my obeisances to Prabhupada over and over again every day. So thank you for letting me share this moment. Thank you, Pitamba, for being Pitamba.
Very good.
No, thank you. This is absolutely brilliant. I just don't know what to say. I would never have had this much association, had it not been for this situation. And even though yesterday I had to go to work, I've been a bit busy with work. Whenever I get the opportunity, come back on the Zoom. And it's fantastic because Krishna consciousness has come right into my house. It's come right into my living room. And more importantly, pray to Krishna and Guru Maharaj and Prabhupada. It comes into my heart too. Jai Shri Radha Krishna Chandra.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna to my senior.
Hare Krishna. So, anybody else would like to share anything before we go into the Nashinga Kavach?
All right, well.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Just wanted to say that Prabhupada's biography I read, and that just melted my heart. And that's why that just validated my beliefs in what mission was. Thank you.
And did you read the one volume book or the 7-volume book?
No.
Okay, there's 7 volume. There's a 7 volume in great detail. Prabhupada's life is explained, and it's fantastic. If you get a copy of that, that would be good, because that gives a lot more detail, and it's fun.
We have it actually.
Oh yeah, that you should read that.
We have it actually, and that's the one I've read.
Yeah, that's the one to read. That's got a lot more detail.
Yeah, that's the one to read. Yes.
And then there's another one on the what's that thing? Weatherbase. On Weatherbase, you can find his diaries. How especially in the early days in the States, he kept a diary of every day. He would his expenditure would be 50 cents.
Okay, I'll have to get it.
Yeah, and he would write, that I've sold 1 book and I received $2 or $10. I spent this much on a bus, and it is extraordinarily humbling. If we see what he went through, you'd be in tears. I was crying when I was reading those diaries. What he went through for us. So it means we have to put our very best effort in. Do as much as we possibly can. And that will please Prabhupada, that will please Guru Maharaj. Definitely. So if there's nobody else who would like to say anything, we can shift on to the Shinga Kavach. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you very much, dear devotees. Okay, let me just